My wife stands in the quiet doorway of our fading love, her heart trembling like a bird whose wings have forgotten the sky. She breathes softly, as if afraid her own sorrow will answer back, and the silence between us becomes heavier than truth. Once her smile was a sunrise, gentle and golden, touching everything in my life with warmth. But now her smile is an echo, distant, fragile, almost disappearing. She carries a broken heart like a wounded lantern, trying to guide herself through memories that no longer feel safe to touch. Her tears fall without sound, as if even her sadness has grown tired of being heard. I watch her shadow on the wall, smaller than before, and I wonder when I became a stranger to her soul. She loved me with a devotion that could have rebuilt kingdoms, yet I offered her ruins in return. She holds my name in her trembling hands, a name she once protected like a vow, but now it feels like something she must let go to save herself from further breaking. The night wraps around her suffering, soft but merciless, and she stands in it like a queen who has lost her crown, but not her dignity. Her broken heart whispers a truth I was too blind to hear. Love is not destroyed in a single moment. It withers slowly in the quiet neglect of days. She looks at me with eyes that once dreamed of forever, and now only ask one heartbreaking question. Why did I let her fall apart in a world where she only wanted to be loved? Her pain becomes a river flowing through our home, touching every memory, dimming every photograph, haunting every corner where laughter once lived. She stands in front of me, fragile yet unbroken, wounded yet strong, and in her silence, I hear everything I never listened to. Her broken heart beats. Not for me anymore, but for the woman she once was, and the woman she is trying to become again. She walks through the house like a memory searching for itself, touching the edges of forgotten moments that once breathed with love and warmth. Now everything feels colder, as if even the walls understand her suffering. Her silence has its own voice, a quiet ache that speaks louder than any cry. She looks at the places where we once shared dreams, and I can feel her heart breaking with every step she takes away from what we were. Her hands, once soft with trust, now tremble with hesitation, as though love has become a fragile thing she no longer dares to hold. She hides her pain in small gestures, closing a door slowly, folding a piece of clothing with care, sitting alone in a room where echoes of laughter mock her loneliness. I see the distance forming between us, not in miles, but in the heavy air between her breaths and mine. She is still here standing before me, yet her soul feels far away, drifting where my apologies cannot reach. Her broken heart glows with the kind of sorrow that only the deeply wounded understand. It is not anger, it is disappointment, the kind that shatters quietly and leaves scars that never fade. She looks at me sometimes, as if searching for the man she once loved, but each time her gaze falls, I fear she finds only the ghost of who I should have been. She tries to smile, a small attempt to hide the storm inside her, but the smile dies on her lips. Before it even begins, she turns away quickly, hoping I won't see the pain she has carried for far too long. Her heart is broken, not because love ended, but because she kept believing long after love stopped feeling safe. She stayed when leaving might have hurt less, and now, in the quiet light of dawn, she sits alone by the window, holding her heart, as if it is a fragile bird she is afraid to let fly and too wounded to keep. The morning sun touches her gently, but she doesn't look up. She is lost in thoughts that have carved themselves deep into her spirit, and I stand behind her, wishing I could take her pain away, even though I was the one who placed it there. She moves like a quiet storm, soft on the outside, but holding lightning behind her eyes. I can feel the weight she carries, the heaviness of a love that has been bruised too many times. Her heart speaks a language that only the wounded understand, a language of silent tears, long pauses, and breaths that tremble as they leave her chest. She sits at the corner of the bed, fingertips touching the blankets, as if they still remember the warmth we once shared, but even the fabric feels cold now, unable to comfort what is already cracked. Her dreams, once so full of light, now flicker like candles in the wind. She tries to hold them upright, but sorrow keeps blowing them low, and her spirit bends with every shiver of disappointment. I watch her trying to find strength, in places that have long been emptied. Our promises are memories, the words we used to whisper when love was still alive. There is a distance in her now, a quiet separation that has nothing to do with space. Her body is here beside me, but her heart is somewhere far away, nursing its wounds in a place where my voice cannot enter. She avoids the mirror lately, as if afraid to meet the reflection of a woman who gave too much and received too little. She touches her face gently, not out of vanity, but out of sorrow for the girl she once was, the girl who believed love could never turn into pain. When she walks past me, I feel the wind of her sadness, a reminder that my silence became the storm that ruined her peace. She holds her chest sometimes, as though trying to keep her heart from falling apart completely. She hides her trembling behind soft smiles that fool no one, least of all me. At night, I hear her shifting in bed, turning her face away from mine, hugging herself, as if she is the only one left to protect her own heart. The darkness knows her secrets better than I ever did, and still, she remains gentle, even while breaking. There is strength in her suffering, a quiet resilience that keeps her standing when most would have fallen. But her heart, that wounded, weary heart, beats with a pain I can no longer pretend not to hear, and every beat whispers the truth. She deserved better than the hurt I gave. She stands by the window in the late evening light, the sky turning gold behind her, while her heart turns heavier inside her chest. She watches the world outside move, cars passing, children laughing, life continuing. As if her pain is invisible to all but me, she presses her palm against the cold glass, as though trying to steady herself. Against the ache rising from within, her shoulders tremble. But she refuses to let a tear fall, not because she is strong, but because she is tired of breaking in front of the same person who caused the break. The silence between us grows longer each day, stretching like a road that neither of us knows how to walk anymore. I try to approach her, but she steps back gently, not out of anger, but out of fear that hope might hurt her again. She was once a woman who believed in miracles, who thought love could fix everything, heal everything, transform anything. But now she holds her heart differently, careful, cautious, like something that has been dropped too many times and may not survive another fall. Sometimes she closes her eyes and whispers to herself in a voice so soft, I almost miss it. I know she is trying to remember the version of herself before the tears, before the disappointments, before the moments when she realized love can also be a knife. She sits at the dining table where we once shared laughter, her fingers tracing the wood grain, as if searching for memories that used to feel warm. Now they feel distant, almost like they belong to another life entirely. When I say her name, she doesn't always answer, not because she wants to ignore me, but because the sound of my voice no longer reaches the place where her hope used to live. She tries to be strong. She tries to pretend she's fine. She tries to smile, just enough to convince the world that her heart isn't breaking. But when she thinks I'm not looking, her face collapses into a sadness so deep it could drown the sky. She is a woman who has given everything, her trust, her dreams, her quiet prayers for forever. But now she sits with the reality that even forever can disappear in a single moment of pain. Her broken heart glimmers like shattered light on the floor, 1,000 pieces, still trying to glow even after the darkness has taken so much from her. And I stand there, helpless, watching the woman I love fight a battle she should never have been forced to fight alone. The night settles softly around her, but even darkness cannot hide the sorrow etched into her eyes. She sits on the edge of the sofa, hands folded tightly in her lap, as though holding herself together is the only thing stopping her from falling apart again. The room is quiet, yet her silence is louder than any argument we ever had. There is an ache in the air, a quiet grief that wraps itself around everything she touches. Her breath catches sometimes, like her heart is trying to remind her of the pain she keeps suppressing. She swallows the hurt, but it rises again and again, until she has to close her eyes, just to steady her trembling soul. She once loved me with a fire that could have warmed the coldest nights, but now her love flickers, like a candle fighting the wind, soft, fragile, barely holding on. She avoids my gaze lately, afraid that if our eyes meet, the storm inside her will spill into the room and reveal wounds she has tried so hard to hide. She has become a master of quiet suffering, carrying her broken pieces with a grace that shatters me. In the quiet hours, I hear her heartbeat, not the steady rhythm it once held, but a fragile, uneven beat that tells a story of trust shaken and love wounded. She walks slowly now, as if each step is weighted with memories she wishes she could forget. Her sadness follows her, like a faint shadow, clinging to her, no matter how much light touches her skin. She stares at the photographs on the wall, the ones where she smiled, without forcing it, where her eyes sparkled, with dreams of forever. She touches the frame softly, as though greeting a stranger she used to know. Her broken heart is not loud. It does not scream or rage. It breaks quietly, with tearless pain, with long sighs, with the soft collapse of someone who simply hoped for too long. She retreats into her own thoughts, a world I cannot enter, a world she created to protect what remains of her wounded spirit. And I stand near her, yet far away, wondering how love slipped from our hands without either of us noticing. Even in her heartbreak, she carries herself gently, like a woman who knows that breaking does not make her weak. It only makes her human. But her heart, her beautiful, fragile heart, beats with a sadness I can feel in every breath she takes. And in that beating, I hear the quiet truth. She is hurting in ways I never imagined. And I am the reason her soul learned the taste of pain. She stands in the doorway of our room, wrapped in a sadness that feels older than the night itself. Her eyes trace the familiar shapes of our life. The bed we once shared warmth in, the pillows that still hold the shape of our dreams, the curtains that once danced to the rhythm of our laughter. But now everything feels different, as if the world shifted when her heart cracked. Nothing glows the same, nothing breathes the same, nothing feels like home anymore. She walks toward the mirror slowly, not to admire herself, but to understand the woman who looks back at her. She touches the reflection gently, her fingertips trembling, as though afraid that even the glass might judge her pain. Her reflection shows a woman who gave everything, her trust, her strength, her heart, yet received wounds that carved themselves into the softest parts of her soul. Sometimes she whispers to the woman in the mirror, asking how she became someone who cries quietly at night, someone who hides her heartbreak behind gentle smiles, someone who learned to live with a loneliness created inside the walls of love. She used to glow effortlessly, a light so soft and warm that even the sun seemed shy beside her. But now her glow flickers, dimmed by promises broken and hopes left waiting too long. She sits on the edge of the bed, pulls her knees to her chest, and holds herself in a silent embrace. Not because she wants to shut the world out, but because she has become her own comfort, her own safety, her own shelter from the storm that was born in her heart. I watch her from the doorway, unable to step closer, unable to reach the place where her pain lives. She feels far away, not in distance, but in spirit, like she has traveled to a quiet corner of her soul, where healing and hurting fight for space. Her breaths come slowly, deep and heavy, like each one carries the weight of 1,000 unspoken emotions. She wipes a tear from her cheek. Just one. But even that single tear holds the story of everything she has endured silently. Her broken heart is tender, almost fragile, yet beneath that fragility lies a strength carved by suffering. She breaks, but she rises. She cries, but she stands. She aches, but she continues. And in her brokenness, she becomes something beautiful. A woman who learned to carry her pain with grace, even when grace felt impossible. Still, her heart remains cracked, and every crack whispers the same aching truth. She deserved a love that did not hurt her. She sits outside beneath the fading evening sky, where the air is soft and the world feels quieter than her heart. The wind touches her hair gently, as if trying to comfort her. In the ways I no longer know how, she closes her eyes, hoping the breeze might carry away a little of her sadness, a little of the ache that has lived inside her for far too long. The sky above shifts from gold to blue, and she watches the first star appear, a tiny light in a vast, quiet darkness. It reminds her of herself, small but still shining. Even after everything, she whispers wishes into the night, soft and trembling, not for herself, but for the strength to keep moving, to keep breathing, to keep living, with a heart that feels heavier than her own body. Her fingers trace the edge of the chair, nervous, restless, as if searching for something solid to hold on to. She has become afraid of falling, not physically, but emotionally, spiritually, softly breaking in ways that no one sees. She carries a loneliness that settles deep in her bones, a quiet emptiness that words cannot fill. Yet she hides it beautifully, tucking her sorrow behind gentle gestures and faint smiles that never reach her eyes anymore. She looks at the moon as if asking it questions. She cannot ask me. Questions about love, about betrayal, about why hearts break, in the hands of those who once vowed to protect them. Her shoulders slump slightly, as though the weight of her memories has become too much to hold. Still, she remains silent, choosing not to spill her pain because she has spilled it before, and nothing changed. She has learned to cry in ways that make no sound. A soft trembling of breath, a tightening of her chest, a slowing of her heartbeat as sadness curls itself around her ribs. And yet, despite her brokenness, she still has kindness in her eyes, a tenderness in her soul that refuses to die. She still believes in love, just not the version that hurt her. Her broken heart glows softly, like a fragile lantern in the dark, still shining, even with cracks running through it. A quiet reminder that some hearts break, but never stop loving. I watch her from the doorway, wanting to speak, wanting to apologize, wanting to hold her, but knowing she is too wounded to let me near, and so I stand there, silent, trying to understand how a woman so strong could be brought to her knees by the very love that was meant to lift her up. She walks slowly through the quiet hallway, her fingertips brushing the walls, as though searching for pieces of herself she left behind in happier days. Every step carries a memory, and every memory carries a wound. The world around her feels unchanged, yet she has been transformed, shaped by sorrow, bent by disappointment, softened by pain she never deserved. She pauses by the door to the living room, looking at the space where she once laughed freely, where her heart once felt light, where her eyes once sparkled, with a future she believed in. Now that space feels like a museum of lost moments, quiet and untouched, as though joy has forgotten the way back. Her breath falters when she sees the little things, a blanket folded on the sofa, a book she used to read, a cup she once held while dreaming of forever. Each one holds a story, and each story hurts. She walks to the table and runs her hand gently across it, the same table where she once placed flowers, in the hope that love could bloom again. But now her hand trembles, not from fear, but from the realization that love cannot grow where the heart has been left cold. The evening light slips into the room, casting soft shadows that cling to her sadness. She stands within that dim glow, like a figure painted in grief, delicate, wounded, yet still carrying a quiet grace nothing could erase. She closes her eyes, her lashes damp with unshed tears. She whispers something to the silence around her. A prayer, a plea, a question, perhaps all three. Her heart aches with a longing so deep it moves like a tide through her chest. She wants to feel loved again, but she is afraid of the cost of believing. Every time she tries to heal, another memory rises and pulls her backward into the same familiar hurt. She sits down slowly, wrapping her arms around herself in a tender embrace, as if she is trying to protect the little pieces that remain unbroken. Her breathing is soft, but heavy with sorrow, the kind of sorrow that lingers long after tears dry. Even in her heartbreak, there is beauty, a quiet, powerful beauty that comes from surviving the storm, without letting it turn her heart to stone. She still shines, even if her light is dimmed. She still hopes, even if hope feels distant. She still loves, even if love has hurt her. And as she sits there, a lone figure in a quiet room, her broken heart beats softly, each beat a reminder of everything she has endured and everything she still dreams of becoming. She lies awake in the quiet hours of the night, staring at the ceiling as shadows drift across the room. The world is silent, but her thoughts are loud, echoing the pain she carries in the fragile chambers of her heart. The bed feels too big now, too cold, too unfamiliar. Once it held warmth and closeness, but now it holds distance, a distance measured not in inches, but in heartbreak. She pulls the blanket around herself, curling into a small shape, as though trying to disappear into the silence. She closes her eyes, but sleep refuses to come. Her heart is too restless, too bruised, too full of memories that will not leave her alone. She remembers the nights when she fell asleep smiling, when love wrapped around her like a soft embrace. Now she only feels the ache of a tenderness lost and the quiet sting of promises that faded into empty air. Her tears fall quietly, not as a storm, but as a soft, endless rain, the kind that soaks the earth slowly, patiently, without ever making a sound. She holds the pillow like a fragile comfort, but even that fails to ease the weight in her chest. She wonders how a heart that gave so much could be left with so little, how trust could crumble in the hands that once held it gently, how love could turn into pain, without warning, without reason, without mercy. She whispers into the darkness, her voice trembling, asking questions the night cannot answer. Why was she not enough? Why did her love not save anything? Why did she pour her soul into a heart that was not ready to hold it? But the night remains silent, and she remains alone with her hurting thoughts. She presses her hand to her chest, feeling the broken rhythm of her own heartbeat, a rhythm carved by sorrow, a rhythm that aches with every breath. Yet it continues, even in its brokenness, telling her she must survive, even if she no longer knows how. Her eyes drift to the window, where the moon hangs low, like a wounded lantern in the sky. She wonders if the moon, too, has known heartbreak. If it understands the quiet pain of shining through darkness, it cannot escape. She closes her eyes again, not to sleep, but to hide from the ache that refuses to let her rest. And in that fragile moment, she realizes something heartbreaking. Her loneliness does not come from being alone in the room, but from being alone in a love that once felt like home. Her broken heart pulses softly, a reminder of the battles she fights in silence, in darkness, in the quiet hours, where no one knows she is falling apart.